with everything going on in Israel and Palestine, with all of the way it's affecting Hollywood, the Writers Guild of America has refused to issue a statement on this topic at all because they can't reach a consensus with the people in their industry.
That makes sense.
That's it. And at first I was like, typical, but then I'm like, I don't care what the
need a consensus.
I don't care what the Writers Guild of America has to say about what's going on in Israel and Palestine anyways. Like, I feel like everyone's waiting for the celebrities to reinforce their viewpoints, whether it's on this, whether it's on other socio-political issues. Everyone, whether they tell people they don't like the celebrities or not, they're waiting to have their views parroted back to them. It's why I make fun of conservatives every time some celebrity says something that's not completely brain dead. They're like, oh, I always knew that guy was great. I'm like,
Also,
right?
they're not great on 100 other issues. They said one thing that you vaguely like.
Exactly. So with something like this, you don't know what to do. But then I wonder, like, why would anyone have anything to say? Because you look at all of these. So Mark Ruffalo says something. He basically says, like, I don't want to see kids die, and posts a petition. Everyone says, petitions never work. Gets him roasted online. Tara Strong, who is a voice actor, basically says, like, what's going on to Israel is awful. Gets hate, loses a job. Luckily, she has since got more work since then, so it didn't cost her anything. Macklemore posted like the most benign of like posts that looks to appease both sides. It does not matter how well crafted your statement is. Mm-hmm. It won't matter. You will still get crap from someone somewhere.
I just don't know.
And then the head of this lady who used to represented Tom Cruise, Steven Spielberg, and all these other A-list celebrities, also lost her job and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, why do they it is like, my question is like, why do we as human beings feel the need to speak on so many issues? I'm not saying this as like a judgment of them. I'm actually asking the question, like, what is it that makes us as human beings feel this innate need to have our opinions heard on something when we know it could cost us something?
Dude, I couldn't tell you, because like, it's always bothered me, and I feel like every time I'm on, I talk about this, is that, for example, I don't care about dating advice from perpetually single people.
Yeah.
Dane doesn't want dating advice from me. That's too bad.
I don't want nutrition advice from fat people. I don't want career advice for someone that's like doing worse off than me. You know what I mean? It's just...
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Jesus. Every time.
Did you miss it?
No, I never do.
Dane missed it, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't.
Dane missed having the crisis meter blow his eardrums out.
Interrupt his point, man.
Yep.
I think what you're saying is totally real. Like, if I want opinion that's worth considering, that I might make decisions on how I conduct myself or anything like that, you want it from someone who's coming from a place of information.
And I don't seek it out either, because what I keep seeing nowadays is like, oh, Brett Dasovic is silent about Israel-Palestine. It's like, why do you want his opinion anyway?
Yeah, who cares?
You know what I mean?
I'm not a foreign policy expert, nor do I have any expertise in the region. And I wonder about the celebrities. Like, is it because they just, like, we're kind of built up in social media has made us very, very emotional. So we're whipped up into a frenzy by a bunch of images that we see, and then we feel like we need to be heard.
I think it's that a lot of celebrities, when they, if you're an actor and you become famous from that, or a musician or whatever else, they are then also told, you're a role model. People look up to you. People care about what you think. And maybe that's true in your industry, but they then start to feel as though they have to make big cultural points because they have people looking to them for this. And it's not true, but I think it's how, PR agents or press secretaries or whatever else, like people who are working on their career, keep them engaging with their audience, right?
What I think is a big contributor to this is that a bunch of people, they have information, but they don't have knowledge about things. And for example, I remember when in the past I would, I'd be in an event and I would talk to other marketers and things like that, and I would hear them constantly say buzzwords, mm-hmm. but nothing of substance. And I was like, sure, you said SEO, but did it fit in that sentence? Yeah. And I feel that it's a bunch of people that have made some calculations in their head and they continue to see themselves as brands. You know what I mean? But it's so hard to explain to someone that even though you have a brand, you still the brand and the product are a separate thing. Like the brand is how it's like a concept that's being devolved and simplified for mass appeal and to explain the concept quicker. However, the product is the product, and the product should be what it is.
And when you are your own brand, it's hard to differentiate the two and separate them.
Correct. And so I just feel that people have made themselves such a product, and they've distanced themselves from the individual, that when things like this happen, they just make the calculations like, well, Dane Font as a product, what would he think?
Yeah, is it like you're saying they essentially function like when big corporations come out with statements about stuff? So you're sort of like, why is Target commenting on this, or why is, why is anyone saying anything? We don't need this. With the one exception to all the things you stated to me is Macklemore, which I think
that's what I want to talk about.
He is fundamentally political in a lot of ways, because one of his biggest hits was "Same Love," which was supposed to be this like LGBTQ same-sex marriage like affirmative anthem, and people still reference it and play it all the time. I think the uber cringy
clip of the girl who has like the BLM like on her cheek.
Oh yeah, the white chick
that was that song.
I think he also comes from a culture in the Pacific Northwest where being young and hip and being politically progressive and active are married together. And so it's very much a part of who he thinks he is. Maybe he really does believe in these causes, but I think ultimately this is such a complicated issue that we don't need people rushing to try and make statements. And these neutral fence-sitter statements are actually worse. Just stop talking.
I'm gonna read his statement here, because it's like when I read this, it's proof that you cannot win in these statements. So he says, I have been in fear. I have felt a literal lump in my throat and cannot stay silent any longer. You could totally stay silent, dude. If you wanted to, you could absolutely stay silent.
Literal lump.
Yeah. He says, I condemn the murder of any human. The bombings, kidnappings, and murder of the Israeli people carried out by Hamas was horrific in every way imaginable. My heart deeply hurts for the Israelis that lost loved ones to such an abomination. As a father, I cannot imagine if one of my kids was at that festival or was still missing after being kidnapped. It is absolutely unfathomable, but killing innocent humans in retaliation as collective punishment is not the answer. That is why I am supporting the people around the world who are calling for a ceasefire. It's about as neutral of a statement as you can issue. He still got dragged. And what I was saying before is like, look, the internet is forever and people don't really realize that, but this is when it comes into play, because he has this old clip from him at a show where they talk about him being anti-Semitic back in the day, and everything you say or have done on the internet can and will be used against you in the court of public opinion, and it comes back to bite everyone in these statements. So the options are a couple of things. You can either stay silent forever if you know that you have ever said anything that's offended anyone, because you know it's going to come back to bite you, or you can speak and simply understand that what's going to happen is that people are then going to use those things in your past against you, and you weigh the options. Will this past action of mine matter more than what I have to say now? And I just wonder how they make the value judgments for stuff like this, because I just don't know if I was a celebrity, it just sounds exhausting to be a public figure that feels like he needs to be heard on everything. And also, it's like right now in America, we're in a country that tends to be pretty basic with its narratives. They usually unite around the idea of like white men are awful, and we're in a realm right now which they're not used to, which is a far dicier issue, and they're not used to it. They don't know how to navigate it.
I think part of it is we're saying celebrities are like this, but in reality, we all know someone who has taken to Facebook to say, I can't stay silent. They're like, the local hairdresser, or they're like an accountant at a somewhat large but mid-tier company in the US. They are themselves feeling as though they must speak up about some political issue that maybe they research and read about it all the time, or maybe they have some sort of tie to the region or whatever else. But ultimately, are you the person whose opinion is going to change everything? Maybe not. On the other hand, I know people will say, like, even if you can't potentially influence the policy, you should still speak out about what you believe because it's important for, you know, the people who you do affect to consider these issues. I feel like a lot of these celebrities are not acting any differently than like the middle-aged moms who are posting on this, or the super, you know, active person you went to college with that you're sort of like, do you even have a job right now? And you've got all these political opinions, like you're spending a lot of time on social media. It's a more annoying because it's celebrity, so we can read into it a holier than thou element. But I think ultimately, a lot of people want to say their opinion and they pretend like they're obligated to, that they're just, you know, I just had to speak out because of whatever side, you know, I have to do this, whatever else. They just want to tell you what they think.
I don't actually find any of it annoying. I find people's desire to be heard about these issues fascinating, because I don't. Like, I don't feel that way, especially on social media, right? Like, I don't have strong enough opinions on so many of the things that they're talking about, but it's fascinating to me that people with way more to lose than I have, right, would feel so inclined to be heard on these things. And I absolutely believe that they should have the right to do so. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's fascinating how, as a cultural ecosystem, you watch these people have to wake up every day and deal with the fact that what they have to say could cost them money in some fashion, but the need to be heard is innate.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And I think it goes to what you said, which is that people and brands are becoming indistinguishable, especially on social media, where you are essentially an avatar.
The greatest sin of the 21st century is the propagation of the concept called awareness. Yeah. It is truly like nothing. I mean, Dane's being hyperbolic. Everyone take a drink. But honestly, like, how many of the woes of today are from freaking midwits trying to bring awareness about something they know nothing about?
Yeah, I think there is a pressure when you have any kind of public facing platform for any reason to weigh in on things, especially when they're emotional, right? So I'm sure there are a lot of people in, you know, Mark Ruffalo's life that he feels as though if he says nothing, he's letting them down on some level. On the other hand, maybe this is a scenario where we don't actually need 100 opinions. We just need to listen to as much fact and objective reporting as possible. Maybe by contributing these sort of lackluster opinions, you are making it more difficult for real analysis to be heard. But
that's just one of the outcomes that's going to come from a free society, right? It is also interesting that I think it shows that there is a thirst in this country, and especially people who are enamored with the idea of like a celebrity's opinion somehow being more valid than the average person. I think there's a thirst for simplistic narratives, especially around the concept of oppression and who's oppressing who. And these celebrities have been kind of raised in that same somewhat Marxist belief system where it's about relaying simple oppression narratives to society, because they've used it in Hollywood for decades and decades and decades, and they're just not used to this type of backlash because they present ideas that are usually much more nuanced than they actually try to present them as. And when they try to do that now, they're getting extreme pushback, and they're not used to that.
Yep.
Maybe.
So it's weird to see this happen, because I mean, we've always, and I'm still always going to laugh that anyone thinks that you need to have a celebrity validate your point of view. It does not matter. Nor do I think that these celebrities should be any more cautious than anyone else. I think that their managers might want them to be more cautious than anyone else, but you know, it's
I think
it's
in a
kind
lot
of
of cases that's wrong. I think there are a lot of people who are in the administrative side of Hollywood that want people with big platforms to speak out. So if you're the PR assistant, but you feel really strongly about this issue for whatever reason, probably because you went to college at a progressive university, you want the person that you're representing to make a big statement off on one side or the other. I just don't think it's necessary. I'm all for free speech. They can do it if they want to, but arguably if you're really concerned about what's going on, adding to the barrage of noise right now is probably not the most responsible thing to do.
I just think it's so much classier to have the humility of being like, no one needs my opinion on this.
Yeah, I do too.
That's literally, that's what I say just about literally everything political these days. I'm like, why would anyone care what I have to say about it anyways? Like, I'm not a Middle East expert. I'm not an expert on any form of politics. I have general views about stuff, but it's not like I'm like, I wish that in some points, like when you hear somebody who's really, really educated on something and they make a point that maybe you could have like said in your head, but you wouldn't have been able to verbalize, like it resonates with you right away, but you're like, wow, Like they were able to put that into the universe in a way that I wish that I could speak.
What's the principle that's called, like, when people have very little information about something, they overestimate how much?
Dunning-Kruger.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe that.
It's the Dunning-Kruger effect. So yeah, I think it's interesting, and we're going to continue to see this type of stuff happen because it's like you said, they're brands, but they're also individuals, and there's no gap between the two. I do kind of, I do laugh because I do believe that most of these people's careers would be fine if they just decided not to. Like, yes, there are going to be people that are going to say like, you should make a statement about this, but at the end of the day,
but
they can come for you for things you've said. I guess somebody could like make a note and be like, so and so, Brad Pitt, who's remained completely silent on the issue of this topic, but it's a lot harder to remember that than it is to remember what they actually said.
And there's also the school of thought that no press is bad press. Which, by the way, yes, there is bad press.
What?
Like that, I just think that's ridiculous.
That there's no such thing as bad press?
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.